What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to Down to the Wire. I'm your host, Brian Costa, and tonight we have a great show in store for you. Another Friday night back in the Koffler Center, and I am happy to talk some sports with you guys today. Obviously, it was a very, very long week for all of us, but we have finally made it to the weekend, and I'm so excited for what we have in store for you guys today. First of all, I have another special guest on the show for you today, making his return to the Koffler Center. It's a familiar face that you guys have known many a times before. So please welcome back to the show, Mr. Jake Marchand. Jake, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. I'm really pumped to have you on the show today. So thank you once again for coming out.
As always, happy to be here.
Yeah. So Jake, obviously, I decided to get you out for this episode as we're going to be talking a lot of basketball news, specifically the news of Ben Simmons, the ultimate clown right now in the NBA. I have to get your opinion on this, man. So for anyone who's been living under a rock, Ben Simmons, has been, just a complete drama queen this entire offseason for the Philadelphia 76ers. He's been suspended, multiple. He's just, recently he was suspended from the team for a game after violating, practice rules. He was holding out for a long time, demanding trades. And, very recently he was seen at practice and he basically went out and he ended up saying like, oh, I want to, he shows up to practice and this man is, I kid you not, he's wearing sweatpants and he has a phone in his pocket. And Doc Rivers goes over to Ben Simmons, asks him to participate in a team, defensive drill. Ben refuses, and Doc, at that point, sends him home. Now, this whole controversy has transpired for so long. This guy is an idiot. But Jake, what are your thoughts on Ben?
He's just not taking it seriously enough.
No.
Even though he wants to get traded, I understand that. It's a professional sport. It's your whole life. You want to be where you think you can develop and also make a lot of money. This is just not the way to go about it, because regardless of how you're feeling, acting this way is just going to make teams less interested in you, because there's no guarantee you're not going to act this way with other teams. And oh, sorry, you can go.
Oh, no, you're good. Carry on.
I was just going to say, another thing too, obviously this is speculation, but I was reading a Fox Sports article earlier, and it said according to sources, some people on the Sixers believe that Simmons is faking his injury and that he's also faking mental illness, which is obviously a pretty serious thing. So.
Yeah, that's a pretty serious accusation. I did see before the show that Ben came out and said that he was, quote, not mentally prepared for the season. He was, having a lot of, doubts and I guess stuff going into it. And he did come out and he said that he thinks that everyone should take responsibility, including himself. But, the actions that he's been doing, man, it's really indefensible. I mean, I've really never been the biggest Ben Simmons fan. I, have always thought that he doesn't really try. I've thought that he just isn't, really into the game and he just doesn't do what he's supposed to do. So when I saw all this come out, I was like, it's not surprising, but it's just finally, showing everything kind of coming to a head.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And at his age too, he's still relatively young. He has potential in his career, but this is just this is how his career is going to be remembered. And you don't want this to be a part of your career or history as a professional athlete. So,
yeah, I mean, listen, we've all for what Ben's been doing though, it's been pretty dramatic. And listen, I don't like to rag on a guy, but he's kind of been a bit of an a-hole. Listen, we all deal with our fair shares of a-holes throughout our life. I mean, listen, us especially, we're at Bryant University, we're, just bound to run into them. I know I have. I know I definitely have during my time here. I don't know about you, Jake. You could probably attest to that. But you run into your fair share of them just, being in certain situations.
Yeah.
Ben really hasn't helped himself out here. And you make a good point by saying, essentially, he hasn't helped his trade value, for a guy that's trying to, get out of this situation and trying to get out of Philly. What team is going to want a guy that's doing the things he's doing? If he was just saying listen, I'm trapped in a bad organization, I want to help some other team out, and I'm just please let me go. You could make a plea that he's trying his best and he's doing it as professionally as possible, as professionally as requesting a trade can be done. But he's just done all the wrong steps. Him and Rich Paul, who, Rich Paul ended up saying to Doc Rivers, oh, why should Ben come back? Why should he come back? And Doc ends up, pretty much rightly saying, because it's in his effing contract. He's, it's in his contract to come back. And one of the things that's pretty interesting with that is that, 76ers GM and, former Rockets GM. I know Jake, you used to be our former token Rockets fan on the show. So this is actually pretty interesting for you. So Daryl Morey, the GM of the 76ers, came out and said, listen, we're only going to be trading Ben Simmons for a game for a difference maker. We're not trading him for, this package of picks or anything like that. Because he's just like Ben Simmons. He's too valuable. Whether you like him or hate him. And I'm definitely on that side. He has value.
Yeah.
So I mean, you got to get something for him. And Daryl Morey said, unless I get something for something of value for him, we're not trading him. And he literally ended up saying, if this goes 4 years and I have to, and Ben Simmons is holding out and being like that, I'll play that deck. I'll play that game. And I'm like, the fact that the GM is saying I would, more willingly make this guy hold out than actually, trade him and get whatever you can, just shows the amount of disdain that's going on in this organization right now. It's so bad.
It's from both sides, if you ask me.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I don't think the 76ers handle a lot of things well, but what particularly do you not like on the 76ers end?
I don't know. I mean, at some point, like, you might have to cut your losses, because the longer this goes on, I feel like the longer his trade value just declines. And like, I mean, obviously, like, I respect them, like, kind of imposing fines on him. Like, in an ESPN article, like, it was saying something about like his like fines for like missed practices and meetings and games and whatnot. This season just started the other day. It's already at $2 million.
Yeah.
Like, he's been racking up like costs and fines.
He hasn't made a penny this year.
He hasn't made a penny. He's out $2 million before he even touched the court once, which is just like I understand fining him, but like, man, that's just making it worse altogether. It might hit a point where like, if nothing improves and no team like listens to Morey and like tries offering up a difference maker, then they might just have to cut their losses and part ways and get whatever they can.
I mean, if you're the 76ers, you want to do anything at that point besides that. I think that Morey will eventually, try to get a trade done. I don't think that, you're going to see a repaired relationship with Ben and the Sixers. He might play, a handful of games, but if they're given the right opportunity, they'll ship him. Now, I said it on my last Friday show. I don't know where the hell they're going to send this guy, to be frank with you. I mean, like, what place is going to want this guy? Again, with the reputation he has, but also the fact that he doesn't really show any kind of drive to, improve his game all around. I said on the last show, guys like Andre Drummond and Brook Lopez learned how to shoot a jump shot. They, they were butchers on the field, but they eventually learned how to do it. Yeah. And listen, like I said, they're not Stephen Curry out there, but they can at least be, reliable and not a detriment to their team. Ben Simmons hasn't shown any willingness to learn and actually get better at his craft, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. Like, that definitely feeds into the problem. It's like, if you're not like looking to improve, like we kind of been talking about a lot, like your freaking trade value, like if you're not trying to improve your trade value or even just improve as a player, then like, who's going to want you,
No one's going to want you at that point. And I'm just like, I said it on my last show, and I'm like, I was, feeling kind of validated as to saying like, oh, Ben isn't trying. He's not like doing a lot of this stuff. And I ended up seeing this TikTok. I was going through my page, and, obviously with the algorithms and everything, eventually something you're interested in is going to come up. And I get the TikTok about, of this guy talking about Ben Simmons, and it was actually from this guy. He runs a sports podcast. It's called the Too Tall Sports Podcast. This guy's name is Brett Lauren. I guess he's a former professional, baseball player. So, very good source. He seems like a very nice guy. I'm actually going to try to reach out to him and see if he wants to ever do a show at some point. Nice. But he seems like a very nice guy. And, he was talking about the situation, and he ended up, finding Ben Simmons' old scouting report from his LSU days. And, it was actually very interesting because it, basically kind of, revealed everything that we, think about this guy. And it said, lacks the desire to get better, like doesn't really want to, work hard, doesn't kind of resents coaching at time to time, very tough to coach. And, it basically kind of echoes all the things that we know to be true about Ben Simmons.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And the fact that like it was such a visible like issue like early on during his time at LSU, like that puts him in an even tougher position, because this is like, it's already been becoming a trend, but now it's like a long-standing pattern. That's just really making it worse for him. And like, this is just feeding into the drama. Like we said, something is going to have to happen where losses are cut, or like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not looking good.
Listen, this in a way reminds me of the whole Antonio Brown drama. Like, listen,
Yeah.
And listen, I didn't think that Ben Simmons would actually be this kind of a guy, because like you see Ben Simmons, like I freaking hate Ben Simmons, but he seems very mild mannered. He doesn't really say a lot. He seems more quiet, unless he's on the court doing what he does. So when I saw all the stories coming out, it did remind me of the Antonio Brown saga. And, that was very different because Antonio is very bombastic. He's very passionate. And, you could definitely tell. And, with the way the Raiders organization has been as of lately, maybe Antonio was right. So I will give him that.
Yeah.
Things might honestly, Antonio may have maybe Nostradamus there. So I will say that. But to be frank, Ben, like when I saw all this stuff going on with Ben Simmons, that was the first thing I was thinking. I'm just like, you're shooting yourself in the foot. Like, absolutely, you can find a way to get yourself out of a trade situation. You can say this organization sucks, and you can try to do it in a way that doesn't hurt your trade value. Ben Simmons has done all the wrong things, and I think that's why you're now starting to see the statement come out with him saying, "Oh, everyone needs to do better, including myself." And I'm like, yeah, because I think he's finally starting to get the idea that, oh shoot, no one's going to want to trade for me if I'm coming across like this.
Yeah, no, it's funny that you mentioned Antonio Brown, because I was actually thinking about this earlier today. Like Antonio Brown, like had such like a horrible like relationship with the Raiders.
Oh,
like,
it was
before
awful.
like everything went down, but like he was like going above and beyond even what Ben Simmons is going through. Like I remember seeing an Instagram live video of Antonio Brown like verbally like abusing and like yelling at his like ex-girlfriend in front of his kids, but like he's still somehow scoring touchdowns in the Super Bowl. Like, I don't think Ben Simmons can make that comeback, which is sad.
It makes no sense, like especially with that. But the other thing too is that I remember the whole Antonio Brown saga. I think I'm pretty sure he showed up to a training camp in a hot air balloon. Yep. He got frostbite on his feet for going to a cryotherapy chamber.
Yep.
And like, listen, nothing will ever compare to the whole Antonio Brown saga that happened with the Raiders. Nothing will frankly do that. I will stand by that. But, this has just been an absolute ridiculous, act by Ben Simmons. I've been hearing people say, oh, the Celtics, could be a decent destination for Ben Simmons. And I'm like, absolutely hell no. As a Boston Celtics fan, I do not want Ben Simmons on this team. Listen, I mentioned it previously. I think that Ben Simmons can, as a facilitator and as a passer is fine. But when it comes down to it, I want someone who, listen, I don't always trust Marcus Smart from three, but I know he can at least, I know he's at least willing to shoot the ball from there. Maybe a little too much, but he's willing to do it. Ben Simmons gets there and he's scared to shoot. He doesn't want to shoot because he's afraid he's going to embarrass himself. And, listen, embarrassment, it's a thing that's happened to a lot of NBA players throughout their time. One instance that I think of is when, I remember reading an article my junior year, and it was on Wilt Chamberlain and Rick Barry. And, obviously, happened at like slightly different times, but, Wilt Chamberlain, obviously one of the greatest, basketball players of all time, especially during his era, was absolutely dominant.
Oh yeah.
But one area that people just, have to recognize that he was absolutely awful and was free throw shooting. He could not do it to save his life. He was absolutely awful at it. Yeah. But then he ended up, obviously, if you think of the Rick Barry shot, kind of the grandma shot through the legs.
Oh yeah.
He ended up doing that at one point in his career, and he became a very statistically very good, free throw shooter. It was actually insane, and like he was like one of the better ones in the league. But he got embarrassed by it because he thought it was like too embarrassing, even though that was a successful attempt. And he went back to shooting his old way and bricking shots because he just thought he looked stupid. Listen. Ben, you're going to look stupid when you're shooting a couple of these shots at first. Listen, you're going to have some ugly, ugly shots, but so does Steph Curry. So did Michael Jordan. They all had ugly shots now and again. And again, I'm not saying that you're ever going to be that guy. You will never be that guy. And I'm just saying that I'm just saying that to be frank. You will never be that guy, regardless of, this isn't even hating on you. You like just the work that Steph Curry and those great shooters have put in. You're never going to be able to match up to that. We understand that. But you at least need to be willing to shoot. You don't want it to be where you get down the court and you get to the 3-point line and you see all the defenders flood the paint. That's embarrassing. You can't have that.
Yeah. No, you're right. And the fact that like, even just where he is positionally on the court, like he's playing, depending on where he is, like on the team, like what team he's on, he's playing the 1, 2, or the 3, maybe like sometimes like the 4, but like there are centers that can shoot. Like we have 4s and 5s that can shoot. Blake Griffin is a great example, once his knees gave out, he adjusted he
had to learn how to shoot. You're right.
He had to learn how to shoot, and he adjusted his entire play style. I mean, he's been showing that he can like dunk a little more now, which whatever. But like,
Yeah.
he still
Well,
developed.
as soon as he got out of Detroit, he was like, oh, I can try again.
I know, but it's just like, it's just a prime example. Like there is an ability to change the way you play, and like it makes you a more marketable player. Like it's as simple as that. And I think if he actually like, he could turn this around to an extent and be like, listen, I'm going to put my head down. Like I'm going to go to work. I'm like you said, develop a jump shot, not try to be the go-to guy, but be confident. Like that's all it takes for him in this point.
Just don't be a liability. That's all you need to be. Just don't be a liability and you'll be fine.
Exactly.
Like that's fine. Like, again, don't need to be Steph, but just don't make it to where it's embarrassing. But that's, I think that kind of covers what I have in terms for Ben Simmons news. It's been an absolute, train wreck of what's been going on there. But something else I want to talk about in NBA news is actually a very serious topic as well. Obviously the Ben Simmons news, we clown on him, do a lot of stuff there. And it's, it's serious with the situation going on in NBA wise, but this next story is actually very, very serious, just kind of as a news story. I wanted to cover this. So obviously the Celtics this offseason, ended up re-signing Enes Kanter. He previously, had been with the Celtics for a season, then went back to the Portland Trailblazers, I think last year. And then this year we ended up bringing him back to the team. Enes, obviously he's a pretty solid center for us, kind of good in some later rotations in the game. But, one of the things that, a lot of people know about Enes Kanter is he's very vocal as an activist. He comes from, coming from Turkey and coming from his home country. He's been very vocal about their president Erdogan. He's, been, he's always like rallied against him. And, because of him speaking out, his parents have been jailed. He's had, siblings and other people, be affected by it. And, he's just saying, what, I want to do this. I mean, another instance that, was really bad was back when he was playing with the Knicks. He didn't want to travel to an international game in London because he actually had a legit fear that spies were going to assassinate him. Yeah. And like that's not even like an Antonio Brown, like he's paranoid. Like he was genuinely concerned that people were going to attempt to kill him because of him, voicing his political differences, which is crazy. But, and, obviously, like it's just the whole situation. It's nuts. But recently Kanter did come out and he was speaking about the situation in Tibet and, their kind of relationship with China. China's always, kind of had, kind of a hold on them, as well as Hong Kong has been a place of interest with them. And, the whole thing with China and Tibet and their areas, it's always been a very complicated history. During last year's Summer Olympics, China was, counting some of the they were counting some of the gold from places like Taiwan and other countries, saying like, oh, we still technically have ownership of these areas, so we have more gold than anyone else. And they were trying to do like a bunch of things like that, which was, very, very complicated in that right. But Kanter was recently speaking out about, about Tibet in general and saying, he's in favor of it being, a free sovereign nation. And he actually came out against China's ruler and ended up saying, Xi Jinping is like, he just spoke very negatively of him, which, in the NBA, that's kind of the cardinal sin because of just how big of a market that they have with China. It's a huge market. Like, listen, it's the United States is always going to be king with that. But the NBA in China is freaking ginormous. It's huge. You can't even describe it. That's why the NBA, up until COVID would play at least some preseason games over in China. That's why they would do it, because it's such a lucrative market and they have, so many, they have so much sales coming from that area. It's insane. So basically, as a response to this, though, China has now banned all Celtics games in their market, which, is crazy because, obviously the Celtics are one of the more premier, franchises in the NBA, and China has essentially now shut them out of all public discourse. Now, listen, this isn't the Lakers, and I understand that it isn't like anything happening, but, again, the Celtics are a very lucrative franchise. They sell tickets, they sell merchandise, and the fact that they're now cut out of China is a pretty big deal, especially for the NBA, as they're always looking to make money. Now, what's going to be interesting is that the NBA has had a history of siding more with China in these situations. I think back to, we previously just mentioned Daryl Morey. Back when he was the Rockets GM, he came out in support of freeing Hong Kong, and he thought that some of the protests and for them was righteous, and the Chinese government stepping in was wrong, and he thought that things were going bad there. And the NBA kind of came out and they slammed him. LeBron was saying that he didn't know what he was talking about. There was a bunch of stuff going on there. And now this is coming out again. And I'm very interested because now this is now affecting an entire franchise and one of their more lucrative ones. So I'm going to be very interested to see how the NBA responds to this, even if they will. What are your thoughts on this? Because this is a very, very serious situation.
It's tough because, like, at the end of the day, the league as a whole is going to have to make a statement or a decision or do something to move forward in a way that, like, it's just like they draw the line, because, like, it's just so much revenue, like you said. And, like, from my perspective, like, my high school, we had an international residency program. So we had like hundreds of students that would come to our school from China, and like they all like were massive NBA fans. Like, that's probably the biggest thing I bonded over them with. So like seeing how big that market is and just thinking about all the money they're going to be losing because of that is like crazy. But like we've kind of seen recently, like the NBA is like very like pro like free speech.
Absolutely.
So like
that's where I'm wondering. It's, they've been very pro free speech, and frankly, it has been a very lucrative decision for them as they've now been able to have players express their beliefs, and it's been all very good. But now the question is, when there's money on the line and there's serious implications, where is the NBA going to go with this? Are they going to say, listen, Enes has the right to do what he does, and should be able to say what he wants, and we shouldn't be affected by it, and the fact that China is doing this is abhorrent? Or are they going to try to like weasel their way in and try to say, hey, we're going to try to save face here? Or they may do what I expect, and they're probably going to just say nothing and hope it goes away. That's probably what they're going to do. Hope China lifts it after like a month or something and see what happens. But very serious situation. It's so ridiculous. I mean, listen, Kanter has every right to say what he does, especially coming from his situation. I think that he has a great bill of knowledge on that. So the fact that, he's getting shut out of these conversations and, like this is happening, it's absolutely ridiculous. And, it's insane.
Oh, I totally agree. And wasn't he wearing like custom shoes that said like free to bet? I think
that
was the thing that like was kind of like the origin of like the controversy. I just like, I don't know, because like we've seen this with like, like the NFL and like taking a knee like during like the national anthem. Like it's such a difficult and like tricky thing to like deal with from a legal but also like a financial standpoint too, because like it's such a fine line. Like everything isn't like so black and white. Like there's a lot of gray area. So
there's
like,
a ton of gray area. And the thing too is it's going to matter because I remember seeing something that, I follow Kanter on Twitter. So I remember, I guess way back when, like the last time he was on the Celtics, Turkish TV, what they were doing with Kanter is because they see him as such a, they just see him as such an enemy to the state. They've issued 10 arrest warrants for him. I don't know if you've known that.
I didn't.
Yeah. He posts each one that he's gotten on his Twitter. And like, so he has 10 warrants out for his arrest. So he can't go back to Turkey because he will be arrested on the spot and charged with crimes. Like, being
that's
like
ridiculous.
Yeah. So he knows he can't return to his nation and probably see his parents ever again because of that.
That's horrible.
It's insane, what he's had to go through. So I'm very interested to see how they're going to go about this. And I remember seeing on Turkish TV, it showed a Celtics game, but whenever Enes Kanter was up, they literally put a black square or like a black rectangle over Kanter and would block him out of, shots. It was very poorly done, and because Kanter would just blow by guys. But whenever he was on the court, they literally put like a black sensor bar over Enes Kanter.
That's ridiculous. Yeah.
So like he's an enemy to a lot of these guys. So I'm going to be very interested to see if the NBA responds to it and how they do it.
Yeah, I agree. Because him wearing the shoes was very recently. That was just 2 days ago.
Yeah.
So like it's like you said, is the NBA gonna like try and get ahead of this and make a comment or do something, or are they just gonna like kick their feet up and just wait?
Listen,
figure itself out.
At the end of the day, they're going to do whatever can make them the most money or keep them from losing the most money.
Exactly.
That's what they're going to do. It's all about making money. And listen, if you have a chance to make money, they're going to do it. They're not like, you can say that they're going to come out and they're going to probably support Kanter. Maybe they will. Maybe they'll surprise me, but it wouldn't surprise me that they're going to take the more lucrative route. I'm sorry. That's just what I think. Yeah,
totally agreeable.
But in a more positive note, I will say this: a very serious note here on Down to the Wire. I try to stay away from these big kind of issues. I try to have this be more of a fun show, but obviously a very serious issue, and obviously, regarding one of the major Boston sports teams. But regarding the Celtics in general this season, Jake, we've mentioned on the show before, you're a recently converted Celtics fan.
I know.
How do you feel about them this year?
I mean, there hasn't been a lot of play time, so like not much we can go off of. But Jaylen Brown's performance, great. You can tell he was working in the off season, because you don't like, they were comparing his stats to like Michael Jordan, like some pretty great people for like
Yeah.
season openers, like, and like most points scored in a season opener. Like that's significant. He's doing great, but I'm hoping it was an isolated game for Jason Tatum, an isolated incident, but man, in overtime, he took a lot of selfish shots and was not making them. I'm sorry, but like there are a lot of times when Tatum is that go-to guy in overtime, like he's very dependable for the most part, but I feel like he was selfish and kind of cost us the game to an extent because like if you miss at least like 2 to 3 shots in OT, which are like critical and you're being selfish, like you got to pass the rock and you just got to accept like I'm not that guy tonight. Jaylen Brown is, and I've got to give it to him. I'll stack up my assists and focus on that stat line for the team's benefit. But
yeah, it's obviously going to be a tough, tough for him to navigate that. Tatum's always kind of had like the mentality of being the guy. So he is going to have to, mature and realize, all right, when I'm not on, I got to go to the guy with the hot hand. That is something that he's going to have to be, more aware of. But I will say this, Jaylen Brown always impresses me with his performance because listen, this is the way I describe Jason Tatum versus Jaylen Brown's, ascension into, NBA stardom.
mm-hmm.
Tatum came in and was great from the get-go. He was, I forget exactly how many points he was averaging, but he was averaging a good clip. And then, and he came in at a very high clip too. Like he was averaging a bunch of points from the start and very incrementally, like each year he's adding on a little bit more. He's getting a little bit better in each statistic. When Jaylen Brown came to the league, I think he was averaging about 6 or 7 points. Yeah. And what I've noticed with him is he adds on about 6 points per game each year. So I think he came into the league averaging about like 7 points. Then it became 13. Then that became 20. Then that became 26, I think, as of last year. So he's always making like these big jumps. And that's what's exciting about him. Because listen, like I think the rise of Tatum's great. Because again, how old is he now? He's like what, 16?
Yeah, I mean, pretty young.
Yeah,
he's like 24 maybe.
Exactly. He's still very young at this point.
Yeah, he's 23.
Yeah, he's 23 years old. So again, hasn't even begun to touch the part of his life where he's going to get into his physical prime yet. He's not even near that yet.
Oh yeah.
So the fact that he's at where he's at is insane. But with Jaylen Brown, you see the growth every single season. And I'm not doubting the work that Tatum puts in, but Jaylen Brown puts in that work.
Yeah.
And it shows.
No, it does show. It's just like, and even just like looking at the stat line now, like Tatum was 2 for 15 from the 3-point line, 70 for 30 overall field goal. That's brutal.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to lie. That's brutal. Like, that's just like not a good look.
That's pretty bad. I'm not going to lie. That's actually really bad.
And I mean, I don't know about you. Like, did you watch the game or no?
I watched like the end of it. Yeah.
Okay. So you watched like the overtime, like sections of it? Like,
yeah. I watched.
Okay. Did you see the shots that Fournier was making? I'm sorry. You can't do that when you're on the Celtics. This guy is suddenly a go-to shooter. Like, I still remember his debut with the Celtics. He played like a flaming dumpster fire.
Yeah. He was awful.
And now he's the go-to shooter in double OT and like drilling shots in people's
faces. Is he still wearing number 92 like an idiot?
I think he might be. Yeah.
I hate that so much. He was number 10 and I think that's already taken or retired, but I'm just like pick a better number, man. I get that he wore it with the Nuggets, I think, when he first like made this debut in the NBA, but it just looks so bad, especially on a go-to shooter. It's such an ugly number to wear.
Yeah, it really is. I was upset when I saw that personally. It's like, come on now, just like
pick a normal number.
Get over it. Don't be a weirdo with it.
Yeah, no. I remember seeing that. I was like, I don't know if I want you to succeed now.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like,
got a lot going against them.
I was like, come on, man. This isn't a good start.
Yeah.
But no. I mean, I feel pretty good in the Celtics as well this year. I think that I've been hearing a lot of people saying, they're going to be better than a lot of people think they are. And I'm like, okay, like I want to see that improvement. I want to see, what's going to be different about this game. What is Ime Udoka going to bring to the team this year that's going to be different? Obviously, Brad's now running the operations upstairs. How similar is it going to be? How similar is it going to be to Danny Ainge's operation? Is it going to be completely different? I mean, you saw stuff over the offseason. He went back and he got Kanter, which probably means that he had liked him at the time. He got Al Horford back, which shows that he had wanted him. So, it'll be interesting to see how Brad's crew of what he considered to be, the best core pieces, that he could reacquire do. I will be interested to see how that happens. Now, I think that, we do still need, a legit center. I think that, I was talking about Kanter. I think he's a good, option off the bench and, can obviously start, but we need it. we need a true center. Yeah, Al Horford is not a true center. I've mentioned many times. I love myself some Al Horford, but he's not a true center. The last true, I mean, Jake, being a Rockets fan, you got a former Rockets fan. Let me be very frank. Former Rockets fan, now a Celtics fan, now on the good side of history. But to be frank, you were pretty used to small ball.
Small ball doesn't always work.
It was but listen, it was the philosophy of the Rockets embraced, and it's what they went with for a little bit there after they dealt Clint Capella. Mm-hmm. It was their mentality.
Yeah.
But and like everyone was like, oh my God, the Rockets have been doing small ball for like so long now. How have they not had a real center? The Celtics, in my opinion, haven't had a legit real starting center since Kendrick Perkins. And that's it. And that's if you want to say Kendrick Perkins is a legit center. I mean, like loved me some Perk when he was playing, but like if that's like the last like legit center you're calling legit, like that's crazy. I mean, Kevin Garnett was a power forward, and then
no, you're right.
You're really stretching at that point. Like, I mean, I'm sorry, Shaq at the end. I mean, I'm like, listen,
very brief, but
true center, but like, yeah, you know where I'm coming from with that.
Yeah. No, it's just, no, you're right though. And it just like goes to show like how important that center role is. Like we just need a pickup. Like, I mean, I know this isn't the center obviously, but like, I still think Dennis Schroeder, like he messed up his payday big time, but like, I don't think he was that bad of a pickup for what, $2 million. Like,
oh yeah.
I'll take that.
He was trying to get like what, like an $80 million contract.
Yeah. He was going for like 118 million.
He was going for the bag and we got him for like what, 5?
Yeah. 2 to 5 million, which is absurd. That's a good pickup, but
that's a great pickup for us.
You're right though. Like we do need a center bad. Like we really don't have a true center. And like, that's something that like we're struggling with right now.
And I don't know. Listen, what's always frustrated me with the Celtics is they've always been, one of the, I'm going to steal a term from the Section 10 podcast, which is a Red Sox podcast. Mm-hmm. And, the way the Red Sox were described this offseason by them, that where they were the interest kings of the world. They were interested in everybody. They wanted to get anyone they could. That's kind of how I feel about the Celtics. They're always in the weeds trying to get these guys. And listen, they get certain guys. They do manage to get certain guys. Obviously, Kyrie didn't work out. Gordon Hayward, unfortunate injury. Mm-hmm. And they are able to make these contracts and make it all work out. But, in the end, it's, it's, like you hear the rumors and it's like, oh, we're going to get Kevin Love back when he was in his prime with the back when he's in his prime with the Wolves. We're going to be getting Anthony Davis this offseason. It's like, really? We're going to finally get like Anthony Davis and this is going to put us over the top. And it just turns into an absolute nobody. Oh, there's Tyler Stringfellow, my co-host of the show. How's it going, Tyler? Love that. Couldn't have come in the studio, Tyler. Come on, man. Come on. But anyways, he has a swim meet tomorrow. So I gotta give that to him. He does have a busy night ahead of him. So I will give him that. So, but that kind of concludes what we have in NBA news. So before we do go off, I want to spend the remaining time that we have talking about the Red Sox Astros series, which has just been a complete, up and down for everyone involved. Now, I talked about it on my last show with Billy Pinkney. That was a great episode. So if you missed that, make sure you go check that out. Obviously a great episode there, but I was talking about the series and, the Red Sox were up 2-1 up 2-1 in this series. And the 2 games that they won, they absolutely leveled the Houston Astros. It wasn't even close in the game. It was
ridiculous.
Like it was embarrassing what we were doing to them. Like they seemed like they had no life, but, and I remember coming into class on Tuesday and everyone was saying, oh, the Astros are dead. They have no hope. Like it's over. The Red Sox are going to the World Series. Punch your tickets. And listen, I get where you're coming from, where, you can see this, you see it in a lot of NBA series where, teams get down like this. And, if you see a team, get beat like the way the Astros did in the NBA, you assume they're going to fold because that's just, unfortunately the way the league works. But baseball is different. The resiliency, you can't doubt it in the sport. It's insane what these guys can do.
No, you're right.
And especially if you give them an edge, which, I think Eduardo Rodriguez did when in game 3, when he ended up tapping his wrist, kind of like a fool, was mocking Carlos Correa. And listen, you can make the biggest think about it that you want, but you can say Carlos Correa did it to us first in game 1, but Eduardo Rodriguez did it after, when Correa did it, it gave us some momentum to go out and win those big series. And then once Rodriguez did it, it swung that momentum right back to Houston. It completely flipped the narrative. And, it unfortunately kept Rodriguez, unfortunately, Rodriguez just didn't realize the situation. And I think it's really cost us. Now, there's a lot of other things that I want to blame too. I think that the fact that our hitting is going cold like this is absolutely abhorrent. I do want to blame Laz Diaz because I think he's a bum of an umpire. I don't understand how that guy's even allowed to umpire in the postseason.
20 calls he missed, something like that.
21, which was the highest, this postseason by anyone. It was terrible what he was doing on the field, but it's been ridiculous. So there's been a lot of things going on with this Red Sox team, a lot of things I do want to complain about. But Jake, how have you been feeling watching this Red Sox team this postseason?
It's like, I don't know. I like the Sox games, like you were talking about, like the first 2 games where like we were just like demolishing them. Like you said, like even I had the mentality like we're going to the World Series, like it wasn't a doubt in my mind, at least for the first 2 games. Like everyone on campus like was thinking it too. Everyone was wearing their Sox jerseys to class. Like
I was.
Everyone was.
Listen, I was more cautious, but because I know how the game works and I know that it isn't always that easy. But
it still looked that way initially.
Exactly.
And like it's just like, man, the fact that these games are so like one-sided, like 9-1, like Astros 9, Sox 1, like. That's ridiculous if you ask me. And like when you have such a significant lead in like the top of top of the 4th, like I don't want to say the game's over, but like the game's kind of over, you just feel so defeated early on when you're down by like 6, 7, 8 runs. Like it's just brutal. And now like the game 6 in Houston, is that really a good look for the Sox?
It's a terrible look for the Sox.
It's not a good look for the Sox.
I mean, listen, Houston was able to do it to us. So, I mean, I'm not saying there's not a shot, but, with the way this team has been playing over the past couple of games, you have to wonder if they can wake it up. Now, listen, Alex Cora is a great manager. I think that he's made some mistakes over the past 2 games, but he can rally a team. I'll be interested to see how he does it tonight because he has Nathan Eovaldi going. Nathan Eovaldi pitched 25 pitches in game 4. Wasn't a lot. It was, and for, a lot of pitchers, they have, obviously the game they pitch, but they also have a throw day. So it's their, so they, have a bullpen day where they'll throw a certain number of pitches. What happened with Eovaldi is his throw day was actually the day of the game. So instead of having him, go in and, just throw a bullpen, they were like, you know what, we have him. If he's going to be pitching at 100% in that bullpen, let's throw him out in the game and just see, if he can get a certain number of outs. They gave him a pitch count. They said, all right, we're probably going to let you go, 25 pitches. If you get us out of the inning, great. We'll take that. If you get us the inning, perfect. And if it doesn't work, then we're going to go to someone else. And it didn't work there. And, it cost us, but there's a lot of things that have been, really making me mad about this whole thing. The offense. Everyone was talking about, our offense is so great. It's amazing. Like we're having these offensive explosions. But with the Red Sox, this is kind of how they've been all year. They've gotten extremely hot and then they fall off the face of the earth. And listen, a lot of teams have ups and downs throughout the season. That's what a baseball season is. That's what any sports season is. Yeah. You have your ups and downs. But with the Red Sox, it was especially apparent. Like, we would go out and we'd beat like these great teams, but then we get swept by the Yankees and Orioles, the Baltimore Orioles in, the final week of the season and putting us in playoff jeopardy. Then we'd come alive. We'd sweep the Nationals. We'd beat the Yankees. We'd beat the Rays, who were, the best team in baseball record wise. And, or at least in the American League record wise, and we'd be, sit in the ALCS. But then we go cold again. And it kind of, begs the question, do you want to be a consistently good offense where, you're going to be guaranteed to score maybe 4 or 5 runs a night. You're guaranteed to get that. Or, do you want to be this team that just has 12-run explosions and then falls off the face of the earth? That's what the Red Sox are. And it proves that, right. When they go cold, for some reason, they all go cold together. Kike Hernandez, my friend Pat Edwards was telling me this. He's a career 242 hitter. Kyle Schwarber, has, one of the best trade deadline pickups, has had a great home run in game 2 here for us, is a 238 career hitter. Yeah. The guys we've been relying on, they aren't necessarily like these world beaters all the time. They've been having these amazing hot streaks and we've been able to ride it, but it eventually, kind of reality does catch up to you.
Yeah. And like what you said about like when the whole team like gets hot, the whole team heats up, the whole team goes cold, everyone goes cold. Like how Schwarber hit the game breaking like grand slam.
Yeah.
Like everyone thought it was insane. Like I remember seeing that and I was like, oh my gosh, like that's insane. Like in game 3, like he came through in clutch, but he's 0 for 10 right now.
Yeah.
At bat. Like that's just not good. And like, I don't know.
Look at Kike. He was 0 for 2, like through, I believe it was game 4. And, the announcers were joking, oh, you should sit this guy down. I'm not saying you should sit Kike down.
Yeah.
But but they were saying, oh, he's 0 for 2. He's a world beater. He'll be back. And he's 0 for 8 in these last 2 games. So it happens. Guys can be extremely hot. People were saying they wanted Kike up as like, any postseason hitter. They want Kike Hernandez at the plate. I was like, okay, pump the freaking brakes.
Yeah.
I was like, listen,
that's
a little extreme. Like, regardless of how good Kike was doing, and he was a world beater when he was on, but you got to give it a break. It does kind of have it. It does kind of only go a little bit.
Yeah. And it's just so crazy, like how it affects the whole team. Like even like Martinez, like he's been hitless in the last 2 games, but like games, like 2 and 3, he was just like doing well too.
I'm not blaming that ankle on Martinez anymore. It was keeping him out of a couple games, but I'm not blaming that on him anymore. He's been able to have success with a bad ankle. So I'm like, it's not the ankle, it's him going cold. And listen, again, guys go cold, but you can't be doing it right now in October. You cannot be doing it.
This late in the postseason, you just can't be. Like, the stakes are on, and I hope that they understand that for Game 6, because
And listen, they're gonna have to do it in Game 6. Obviously, it's a do or die. And then Game 7, literally, Game 7's obviously big in any sport that has it. Hockey's obviously Game 7's great. Basketball, Game 7 of an NBA Finals is always a classic. But in baseball, it is the biggest definition of a crapshoot that you will ever see. They're amazing because of how just insane they are. The pitchers are on the shortest leashes available. If there's any ability to get guys in a game, they will do it. They will take your starting pitcher that pitched last night for 9 innings, and if they can get an inning out of him or even an at bat, they will bring him into the game for the for the idea that they can do it. Anything is on the table in a Game 7. So listen, I can't even describe what we would do in a Game 7. That's completely off the table. Again, they may bring in, freaking me to pitch. I have no idea what's no, it's like, seriously, the stuff you see in Game 7s is insane.
Oh yeah.
You can't describe it. So I have no idea what they're going to end up doing. So
we've just got to get there first.
Exactly.
Wishful thinking.
No,
one game at a time.
No, you're right. So exactly. But, I'm very excited for, obviously I'm being very cautious going to this game, but, I hope that this isn't the last Red Sox game that we see this season. I want the Red Sox to continue on. I want them to do what they're doing.
Yeah.
So, another big story in the MLB that I've been really excited about too has been the Atlanta Braves Dodgers series. That's been, very fun as well. The Braves, obviously went into Dodger Stadium, and, they're now within a win of the World Series, which is crazy because the Braves only have 88 wins on the year. For most teams to make the play, most teams, you only win your division with 95 is usually what you can win your division at. The Braves won it with 88. So, they were in a very competitive division, but they also, came alive very late, which fueled this fire. So they're also without their star player in Ronald Acuna. So, which also speaks volumes as well. So I'm very excited to see what the Braves do. If the Red Sox can't do it, I think I would like to see the Braves go in and win a World Series, especially against the Astros, because I can't stand the Astros right now. There are allegations right now going on that the Astros are cheating again. Have you heard about these? I mentioned you a little bit before the show.
You said some foreign substance on his neck.
So
like that. It's ridiculous.
Obviously, when I mentioned foreign substance on the show, you can't go a minute without thinking of Joel Aflam, aka Hey Kami, that my friend from TikTok. He's obviously huge on the issue, and he ended up texting me today saying, hey, I think I caught Framber Valdez, the Astros pitcher who went 8 innings, in Game 5. He said, I think I just caught him using foreign substance. And it's actually pretty interesting because, a lot of guys are using it on their glove, on their forearm. But what a lot of people are saying is that Valdez is applying something on his face or his eyebrow. And, what's essentially happening is, he'll put it on his eyebrow. And then when he walks off the field, he'll take both arms. And instead of just kind of wiping off the sweat with your arm, because of there being foreign substance checks where they check your arms and they check your glove, what he's doing is he's wiping his arms. Well, he's wiping his head in both of his shoulders. And he's putting his shoulder blades into it. And it looks so unnatural. It's not even you could tuck your glove under your armpit and do something with your arm. It's not a difficult motion. And it's if you see it, it literally looks like he's trying to kiss his shoulder. That's the action that it looks like. He's he's going to here, for anyone watching on the screen, and he's wiping both temples off like that. And it just looks very suspicious. And, obviously another big, instance of them cheating allegedly is there now being whistling coming from the dugout. Obviously during the original cheating scandal, the big news was the trash can banging. You'd hear the bang of the trash can, and that usually alluded to, something going awry. It would signal what pitch was coming for these guys. But now I guess the allegation is that, they're whistling to maybe say what pitch is coming in. They weren't noticing this until Boston went up 2-1 in the series. So I'm like, what gives here? I mean, I don't know if Dusty Baker knows about anything going on here. I don't know if Alex Cora is aware of this and what he's going to do, because he's, he was tied up in that whole situation. So I'm very interested to see how it goes. But Jake, it's currently 8:00 here in the Koffler Center, and I think it is time to now say that we are now down to the wire. So we're going to go through everything we talked about in this show, and we will send you guys on your way. So first of all, Jake, thank you so much for coming back on the show, man. It's great to have you, obviously back on the show, but as well back in the Koffler Center. I've been really glad to get back in here this semester. So thank you once again for coming on.
Yeah, always a blast. Thanks for having me. And I know I'll definitely try to be on at least one more time this semester.
Absolutely. I can't wait. So obviously we started things off tonight talking about the absolute clown show that's been going on in Philadelphia with Ben Simmons. I can't say it enough. The guys.
You got to grow up.
Yeah, you got to grow up, man. You got to figure your stuff out. So we talked about him, his former scouting report, kind of signaling some of the traits that we're now seeing become dominant within him. We've talked about Daryl Morey and the 76ers saying that they'll only trade Ben for a difference maker and could essentially wait out a 4-year contract with him to, before they would do anything with him. We kind of have our thoughts on that. We also talked about China removing Celtics games from their market after Enes Kanter comes out in support of Tibet, as well as, talking about how the NBA will respond to this. And then, after that, we talked about our thoughts on the Celtics this season. And finally, we ended things talking about the Sox Astros series, now going to Game 6 in Houston. Do or die game for the Red Sox. Obviously, go Red Sox. Got to do it here. And we finished off by talking about the Atlanta Braves Dodgers series. Obviously, a bunch of stuff going on in the news world. I can't wait for what goes on next week. But if you guys have not been following Down to the Wire at this point, and you guys don't follow us, what the hell are you guys doing? We're available anywhere you guys can find podcasts. We're available on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. But again, the main hub, I have to stress this, the main hub you guys can reach us through is our Instagram. You can follow it at down.to-the-wire. Again, at down.to-the-wire. On Instagram, please follow us. Would be we'd love to get in touch with you guys. We always post updates there. But, it's been a great show. Thank you guys again so much for tuning in tonight. We hope you guys have a great weekend. But from Down to the Wire, I'm Brian Costa.
I'm Jake Marchand.
And we hope you guys have a great weekend. Take care, you guys. Peace out.
Peace.